The Hinterkaifeck Murders are kind of the Lizzie Borden of Germany. They left behind more questions than answers, keeping people pondering for years to come. As recently as 2007, the case was reopened by a police academy team for re-examination with modern forensic methods. In September of 1922, the Gruber family's live-in maid suddenly quit. She had been complaining for some time that she was hearing noises in the attic. Sometimes she heard whispers and tapping. The family patriarch, Andreas Gruber, checked the attic several times and found nothing. The maid couldn't take it anymore. She wasn't going crazy. There was someone or something in the house, and she wasn't taking any chances. The Hinterkaifeck Farm was a very remote farm, 70 kilometers north of Munich, surrounded by forest. It was the home of 63-year-old Andreas Gruber and his wife, 71-year-old Cecilia. Their widowed daughter, 35-year-old Victoria Gabriel, and her children, 7-year-old Cecilia and 2-year-old Joseph. Initially, the family dismissed the maid's thoughts about the farm. It wasn't haunted or whatever she believed. But after a while, he started hearing things too. And making matters worse, there were the footprints. In March, a small dusting of snow covered the ground, and footprints came from the woods ending at the machine shed. They didn't go back. Everything was searched thoroughly, but again, nothing was found. As the months went on, the strangeness intensified. A newspaper turned up in the house. It was a paper that no one in the house subscribed to. It wasn't a paper anyone in the town even subscribed to. It was from Munich, and it left many questions as to how it might have gotten there. Around this time, a set of keys also went missing, and according to some reports, the Grubers told some of their neighbors that they were seeing a mustached stranger on the outskirts of the farm. Again, this is rural Germany. This isn't the kind of place where you just stroll up on your neighbor. March 31st, 1922, the new maid, Maria Baumgartner, turned up for her first day at work. Unfortunately, this would also be the last day of her life. That night, Andreas and the two Cecilias and Victoria were each led into the barn one by one. They were struck in the head with a mattock, a piece of farm equipment in the same family as a pickaxe. Then the killer or killers made their way into the house, where they brutally murdered Maria and little Joseph. Details on what occurred over the next few days vary depending on the article you read or the podcast you listen to. This is a case over 100 years old. Sensationalism, shoddy memory. There's a lot of reasons details may be different. That being said, as the long and short of it is, over the next few days, people came through. The mailman, coffee suppliers, a mechanic. They all note smoke coming from the chimney, a lantern burning. Doors were unlocked and relocked. The dog was inside and outside. Even the cows got milked. Someone was taking care of things. But no one saw the Grubers. Albert Hoffner was at the farm for 4 hours working on a motor in the machine room, and no one ever came out to greet him. Little Cecilia wasn't seen at school, and although that it wasn't unusual for the elder Grubers to keep to themselves, 4 days of not going into town was very unusual for Victoria. Neighbor Lawrence Schlittenbauer decided to investigate. First, he sent his son Johann, 17, and his stepson Joseph, 9, around 3:30 on April 4th. They came back having found nothing. Then Lawrence himself, along with Michael Pohl and Jacob Siegel, decided to investigate. They found the doors to the home all locked and are said to have heard noises coming from the barn. How? Who knows? The family had been dead for 4 days. The men broke down the door and quickly found 4 victims stacked one upon another, in a pile of hay. Lawrence then turned to the house to investigate further, where he uncovered the other two bodies. Michael and Jacob remained in the barn. It took hours for the police to arrive. Again, middle of nowhere. The neighbors, however, descended upon the farm in droves. They trampled over the farm, the barn, the home, everywhere. Even some of them took souvenirs here and there, long before the bodies were ever examined. So here comes the fun part. Who did it? Let's start with the most ridiculous. Carl Gabriel. That last name might sound familiar. This is the late husband of Victoria Gabriel. Wait, he died 7 years ago, right? Officially, yes, he was killed in a battle in France in 1914. The legend, however, suggests that he faked his death and fled to Russia. The proof of this is that they never found his body. They never found a lot of bodies in World War I. Also, during World War II, there was a Russian prison guard with a German accent that claimed to have committed the murders. But why? That's when we get into the disgusting truth of some of the family dynamics. Unlike the unwarranted accusations in the Lizzie Borden case, it is a matter of court record that Andreas Gruber had an incestuous relationship with his own daughter. He was caught sexually assaulting Victoria. He only served 1 year in prison for the crime. In an insane moment of victim blaming, she also served a month in prison. Doing the math, Joseph is obviously not the son of Carl and may have been the son of his own grandfather. Returning to the legend, it is thought that Carl may have returned, become enraged by what he saw, and murdered the whole family. This doesn't account for the 6 months of living, or at least visiting the house and barn, or okay, maybe it gives motive for the father-in-law, but his wife, his own daughter, I don't buy it. The second person typically pointed at is the very neighbor who found the bodies, Lawrence Schlittenbauer. It is rumored that after his first wife's death in 1918, he may have had a relationship with Victoria, fathering Joseph. It is even suggested that he asked Andreas for permission for her hand in marriage, and Andreas refused. The main suspicious activity usually pointed at is his breaking into the barn first and then checking the house. If no one was alive to make the noise, what did he hear that caused him to believe something was in there? The police did find 2 areas in the barn where the hay was matted down, like someone had been sleeping there. Was the killer right there when the men arrived? If so, how did he slip away when no one was looking? To make matters even stranger, he entered the house alone with keys. Remember the set of keys that was said to be missing? As damning as this might seem, it is also possible that as a neighbor, he had a set of keys in case of emergencies. If that was the case, most likely he only had a key to the house and not the barn. Also, let's take another look at this motive. Sure, it gives him possible reason to kill Andreas, but his lover, his son, again, there are some serious holes here. And courts at the time agreed. He won several civil suits for slander against locals who accused him of being the murderer. The most common and most likely motives given for the murders is either a random drifter who stayed in the house and barn before and for some time after the murders, or 2, locals disgusted by the family relations. It's well documented that Andreas was not well liked in the community. There is no shortage of suspects, but the evidence isn't great. Most of it amounts to deathbed confessions or confessions made to priests, comments overheard, or simply memories of shady people in the area. In other words, lots of hearsay. Supposedly, that 2007 study did narrow things down to a single individual, but given the age of the case, that individual is long since dead. Out of respect for that suspect's living relatives, they decided never to release the findings. This leaves things to remain a mystery, most likely until the end of time.